It was a warm night in Austin. Thick air. Wine glasses sweating on the table. The mosquitoes hadn't started yet, but the heat pressed down in that particular way Texas does. Not aggressive, just stubborn, like it didn't care who you were or what you'd planned. Inside, the dining room was full, loud with silverware, stories, cheap laughter. It was a full-blooded Vincent evening, and I was there out of obligation, not comfort. The in-laws always made a show of welcome. Her father greeted me with a firm handshake that said nothing. Her mother always overcooked the green beans and gave me the seat closest to the kitchen, like a polite buffer between the family and the noise of preparation. Her brother Craig was already 2 glasses deep into some overpriced Cabernet, wearing that smug, sideways grin he used whenever he thought about his second divorce. Everyone played their part, even Lindsay. And then there was Molly, 17, junior year, the kind of girl who only smiled when she was winning. Sharp eyes, sharper tongue. She wore her father's last name like armor and wielded it like a sword. I had raised her for 6 years, bought her first car, sat through school meetings, weekend tournaments, orthodontist appointments. She never called me dad. Not once. But I never asked her to. I only asked her to see me. That night, I'd grilled the steaks myself, marinated the way her mother liked them, seared the way Craig insisted, and perfectly rested. I plated them like a chef, made sure everyone's glass was full. The table was glowing with food, candles, and good wine. I had convinced myself it might be a night to remember, that maybe, just maybe, something might shift. But you never see the cracks until something heavy steps on them. Molly waited until dessert. That's what broke me. She waited. I was halfway through a bite of peach cobbler when she set her fork down. Her eyes didn't wander. She didn't play with her hair or glance toward her mother for permission. She looked straight at me, calm, unblinking, and said, "My real dad will pay for everything. You're nothing to me." There it was, cold, unadorned. The sentence was a guillotine, and everyone else at that table watched it fall like it was theater. No one spoke. Craig chuckled into his wineglass. That smug, guttural sound he makes when something cruel amuses him. Her mother stared at her plate like she'd dropped something important. Her father cleared his throat. Once. And Lindsay, my wife, my partner, the woman I'd supported through job loss, surgeries, and 3 miscarriages, didn't flinch. She just took a slow sip of her wine and blinked like nothing had happened. She didn't even reach for my hand. That silence was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I set my fork down, folded my napkin slowly, deliberately, wiped the corners of my mouth like a man exiting a meeting, not a war. I stood. No words, no scene, just a nod toward the door. I walked out of that house with my dignity intact and my heart already reshaping itself. The drive home was quiet. I rolled the windows down, let the thick night air press against my skin. I wanted to feel something physical, something real. The AC could have cooled me, but I didn't want comfort. I wanted truth. Molly had given it to me finally, unfiltered, final. They never saw me as one of them. They never planned to. 6 years of school payments, car insurance, health coverage, birthday gifts, prom dresses, grocery runs. 6 years of sacrifice, of compromise, of showing up when her real dad forgot to call. And still, I was nothing. So I gave them what they claimed. Nothing. When I got home, I didn't pour a drink. I didn't sit in the dark like some wounded martyr. I walked into my office, turned on the lamp, and sat down at the same desk where I had once filled out her FAFSA forms, planned vacation budgets, and reviewed report cards I was never thanked for. I opened my laptop, entered every password from memory, and I started editing the truth. The first change was simple. I removed myself as payer from her university account. Took all of 60 seconds. 1 box unchecked, 1 name replaced. I didn't even pause to consider what that would do to her schedule. I moved through the tasks like a surgeon, calm, precise, disconnected. Next was the vehicle insurance. The car I bought for her 16th birthday. I'd paid the premiums monthly, never late. I logged into the provider's site and adjusted the account. New primary owner Lindsay. New responsible party, her real dad. I removed my credit card, deactivated my name. Then the gas card. I froze it. I clicked through to the dental office, the one that still had my name listed as primary for the Invisalign plan she'd stopped wearing months ago. Removed. Gone. I updated school records, contact forms, emergency contacts. I deleted myself. Silently. Without warning. Every system where I had once been present, I removed myself from it. Not because I was angry, because they had made their decision. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. They had drawn the map. I was simply following it. By the time Lindsay returned home, 2 hours later, I was in bed, reading. I heard her set down her purse in the hallway. She didn't come into the room right away. Maybe she didn't know what to say. Maybe she hoped I'd pretend I hadn't heard it. Or maybe she thought the silence had bought her safety. She stood at the bedroom door, framed in the hallway light, and said softly, "She didn't mean it like that." I looked up, met her eyes, said nothing, because we both knew she did. Lindsay took off her earrings, climbed into bed beside me. Her silence was an apology she didn't want to speak. I didn't accept it. I slept facing the wall. The next morning I woke early, made coffee, packed my gym bag, folded my button down like I always did. Routine is a strange thing, it survives betrayal. But as I stood by the kitchen sink, looking out at the backyard we landscaped together, I knew something in me had already shifted. Some lever pulled, some weight released. I wasn't angry. I was done. Done trying to earn what should have been offered freely. Done performing for a family that only applauded for someone else's ghost. Done being the scaffolding for someone else's illusion of stability. That evening, I logged into the last account. Her phone plan. I'd added her line 3 years ago, the week she broke her old screen and cried because she couldn't text her friends. I remember waiting in line at the store after work, filling out the paperwork while she FaceTimed her mother to pick the color. She never said thank you. I pulled up the account, clicked Manage Lines, and scrolled to hers. Then I paused. Not because I doubted it, because I wanted to feel it. I stared at her name on the screen. Molly Vincent, iPhone 13, unlimited plan. The name I helped keep connected. The phone I paid off monthly. The line that carried her every call, every text, every memory. Then I clicked Remove Line. Confirmation. Yes. Her number disappeared from my list. Just like that, the system asked if I wanted to add another line. I clicked no. The house was quiet. Lindsay was out shopping for groceries, probably pretending that dinner would fix things. That mashed potatoes and chicken thighs could soak up what had been spilled. I sat in my office, surrounded by papers that still bore my name. The mortgage, the electric bill, the home warranty. And I realized something ugly and true. I wasn't a father. I was infrastructure. And when infrastructure speaks, no one listens. Until it crumbles. They had taken everything. My time, my effort, my steadiness. And they had called it nothing. So I gave them exactly that. The first crack had formed. And they didn't even hear it. The first crack showed up a week later. Not with shouting. Not with slamming doors. Just an email. It came in around 9:13 a.m. Subject line, tuition bill urgent. I opened it on my phone while walking back from the mailbox. A bright red total sat at the top of the message like blood on a napkin. $25,000 due immediately. No greeting. No warning. Just a demand. I stared at the number, thumb hovering. Not because I was shocked. Because I had expected it. The quiet truth about this family is that they always assumed I'd carry it. Tuition, gas, insurance, emergencies, my wallet was gravity. Unseen, unthanked, constant. I had paid without hesitation for 6 years. They never asked if I could cover it. Only when I would. I left the email unread. Didn't forward it. Didn't flag it. Just locked my phone and walked back inside. Lindsay was in the kitchen pouring coffee. She wore a faded college hoodie, the same one she had on when we first met. For a moment I remembered the early years. Before the house. Before Molly. Before the rot. She looked up, gave me that soft morning smile. "You sleep okay?" I nodded. Sat down across from her. I said nothing about the bill. I waited. 2 hours later, she brought it up. "Hey," she said casual. "I just got a reminder from the university. Looks like they're missing something. You probably just forgot to update your payment info, right? That word, your, not our, not I." I looked at her over my coffee mug. Didn't blink. Didn't smile. Then I said, "No mistake." She tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I didn't forget. I removed myself. I'm not paying it." Her face changed slowly like weather. Smile fading, then tightening into something else. Confusion first, then recognition, then offense. "Wait, are you serious?" she asked, quieter now. "More than ever." She laughed, but it was brittle. "Come on, don't do this. It's tuition, not a punishment." I stood up, picked up my keys, slid my wallet into my back pocket. "You told me I'm nothing to her," I said calmly. I listened. I walked out the back door before she could answer. 2 days later, the phone rang. His name lit up my screen, the name I hadn't seen in 2 years. Ryan Vincent. Her father, her real dad, felt like a summons. I let it ring once, twice, picked up on the third. His voice was tense, rough, a man not used to needing something from me. "Hey, you're not serious about this, right? This is just some kind of statement?" I said nothing. He coughed. "Tried again. You're still listed as the payer. They sent me the bill." I didn't expect. Look, I thought we had an understanding." I sat down at my desk, looked at the framed photo of our last family vacation. The one I paid for, booked, planned, and spent most of in silence while Molly texted her friends and Lindsay told me to just let it go. "No," I said. "There was never an understanding. That was the problem." "You're seriously handing it over to me?" he said. The panic was barely buried now. "You're really pulling out? You're the listed payer now. Isn't that what you both wanted?" Silence. A long one. Then he whispered, "I need to think." I hung up before he could finish. The next crack came not from him, but from Lindsay. She tried to walk it back. 3 texts in a row. "We need to talk. This is too far. Molly is still a kid. You're punishing her for being upset." I replied once, "Please contact the university directly. I'm no longer on file." Another pause. Longer this time. Then, "Are you serious?" "Completely." That was the last message I sent. She didn't respond. Didn't call. Didn't sleep in the bedroom that night either. I heard her in the guest room, shuffling through drawers, pulling extra blankets, trying not to cry. Or maybe trying to make sure I heard her cry. I lay in the dark, unmoved. This wasn't about tears anymore. It was about math. A few nights later, Molly stomped down the stairs, dramatic as ever. Her voice was sharp, but practiced. "I just got a message from the registrar," she said. "They said I might be dropped. Classes start in 2 weeks. What the hell's going on?" I didn't look up from my book. She stepped closer. "Did you miss a payment or something?" "No," I said. "I removed my payment." "You can't do that," she snapped. I closed the book, set it down gently. "You told me I was nothing to you," I said. "So I adjusted accordingly." She blinked. I think it was the first time I'd ever seen her actually confused. Not just annoyed. Confused. "Wait. So you're just letting it fall apart? You're really not paying for anything?" "Not a cent. But that's not how this works." "Sure it is," I said. "You name your truth. You live by it." She stormed off, slamming the door to her room hard enough to rattle the frames on the hallway wall. Upstairs, the argument began, her shouting, Lindsay trying to soothe her, doors opening and closing like an amateur stage play. I didn't join, didn't even flinch. I went to the office instead, and I kept going. I removed myself from her health portal, from the parent-teacher portal. I deleted my Apple Family plan. I wiped the shared Dropbox where I used to store her college essays, edited for grammar, trimmed for tone. I used to spend hours helping her craft those papers. No more. I sent the final email that night to her driving school, canceling the private road lessons I had prepaid. Non-refundable. I didn't care. Let them keep the money. The inbox was empty by midnight. So was I. The next morning, Lindsay sat across from me at breakfast and didn't touch her coffee. Her dad called me, she said. I nodded. He's not going to pay. I know. She's going to lose her spot. She might. Are you really okay with that? I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who once whispered she was grateful for me. Who used to trace the veins on my arm when we lay in bed and say things like, I don't know how you do it all. This woman who once promised we'd be a team. Now she stared at me like I was cruel for enforcing the boundary she'd let our daughter trample. She said I was nothing to her, I said again. She was angry, Lindsay replied. But even she didn't believe it. She was honest, I said. And that was the difference. Words spoken in anger still count. Sometimes they're the only ones that do. A week later, I received an email from the college dean. Subject: Urgent student account delinquent. Student Molly Vincent has not submitted payment for the upcoming term. She is at risk of being dropped from enrollment. If you are no longer the point of contact, please update us immediately. I forwarded it. No note. No explanation. An hour later, Ryan called again. This time, his tone had changed. Not anger. Not arrogance. Something else. Listen, he said. I didn't know she'd say that. I didn't know how far it had gone. I get that you're upset. I would be too. But we can't just let her fail. She's not ready. She was ready to cut me out, I said. I know, he sighed. And look, I'm not saying she's right, but you and I both know this'll ruin her. I sat back in my chair. Let the silence do the work. Then I said, we need to talk about how to handle this. And in that moment I felt it, the shift. Control sliding back to me. The man they called real was finally calling me for help. And I wasn't rushing in. Not yet. Not this time. I didn't yell. I didn't rage. Didn't throw anything. Didn't storm through the house demanding apologies that would have meant nothing. That's what they expected, I think, some big reaction. Something ugly they could point to and say, see? He was always like that. But I didn't give them noise. I gave them absence. Piece by piece, I began removing myself from every system where my name had once meant security. Quietly, precisely, no fanfare, no announcements, just deletion. I started with the school itself. I logged into the university portal and removed our address, changed the contact email to Ryan's, updated the billing info with his phone number. When it asked me to confirm the changes, I clicked yes with the same calm I used to start the dishwasher. Like it was maintenance. Nothing more. Next came the insurance. The health plan Lindsay had begged me to put Molly on when her braces came off and her real dad had just changed jobs. I'd been paying the premiums for nearly 3 years. I canceled the policy outright. Let them figure it out. If she needed a physical, let Ryan make the call. Let him learn what a waiting room feels like with your daughter half scared and looking to you for answers you can't afford. Then the car. She still drove it like it belonged to her. Like I hadn't spent weeks searching used listings, calling shady mechanics, negotiating over scratched bumpers and bald tires. I found the title in my file cabinet, right where I'd tucked it beneath her acceptance letter. Still in my name. Still my car. I called the DMV the next morning. Told them I'd be removing the vehicle from her use. They asked if it had been stolen. I told them, no, just reclaimed. A few forms later, the plates were suspended. Insurance lapsed. Liability removed. I didn't take the car away. I just made sure it wasn't mine anymore. Let her real dad put his name on something for once. That week, Lindsay started walking around like the air had thickened. She barely looked me in the eye. Her phone was always in her hand, always buzzing. Her voice sharp and hushed when she thought I wasn't listening. But I knew the tone. She was scrambling. She tried to act like nothing had changed. Made breakfast one morning, eggs, toast, even bacon. Set it in front of me like it was an apology. I didn't touch it. Later, she slid into the office while I was typing. I think we should talk, she said. I kept typing. She waited. I know you're hurt, she continued. But this is too far. I looked up. Is it? She's just a kid. No, she's 17, I corrected. Old enough to drive. Old enough to enroll herself in college. Old enough to sentence me to nothingness in front of your entire family. That was one moment. It was the moment, I said. And you let it stand. She swallowed hard. Her voice dropped. You think I wasn't shocked? You drank your wine, I said. That's what you did. She didn't reply. She left the room instead, her perfume trailing behind her like a ghost. 2 days later, the fallout began in earnest. Molly came home from class early, face flushed, phone clutched in a white-knuckled grip. Her backpack was hanging off one shoulder, jacket half unzipped. She burst through the front door like the house was on fire. They froze my account, she barked. I can't register. I can't access the portal. They said my tuition hasn't been verified. I didn't stand, didn't even look up. She waited. I'm going to get dropped, she said louder now. Do you not care? I looked at her finally. No, I said. I care deeply. That's why I stopped pretending. Her mouth opened, but the words died in her throat. She turned to Lindsay, who had come into the room behind her. Mom, tell him this is insane. Lindsay stepped forward, gently, like a woman trying not to spook a wild animal. Michael, please, just for now, just for this term. Then we can figure it out. No, you can't just. I can, I said. And I did. That night, the phone rang again. Ryan. His voice was strained. I could hear wind in the background, probably calling from the side of the road, trying to carve out space away from his girlfriend, or whatever life he was pretending to hold together. I tried calling the school, he said. They won't talk to me. They said my ID's not verified. That's because you never verified it, I said. You're putting her education at risk, man. No, I said. She did. He exhaled long, drawn out. Look, I know we haven't always agreed, but this is her future. You can't let her suffer just because she told me I was nothing? He went quiet. I'm not asking you to be her dad, he said finally, but be a man. That word hung in the air. A man. I almost laughed. I've been a man every day for the past 6 years, I said. I was a man when I paid your share, when I drove her to auditions, when I stayed up at 3 a.m. helping her rewrite college essays, when I filled out her health forms, when I paid the ER bill after she fainted at track practice because she didn't eat lunch. He didn't interrupt. You weren't there. You never were. But you got the title. The bloodline. That's what matters, right? Look, I'm trying. No, you're reacting. Because now the bill's in your name. And then I hung up. The next morning, Molly was gone. Her room stripped bare of everything except the dresser and bed frame. I heard the front door slam around 7 a.m. Tires peel out of the driveway. I found a note on the kitchen table written in that loopy, practiced handwriting she always used for cards. You've made it clear I don't matter to you. I'm staying at Dad's. I folded it, placed it in the drawer beneath the silverware. Didn't respond. By sunset, Lindsay was pacing the living room, phone in one hand, glass of wine in the other. She wasn't crying, but her voice had that raw edge, like skin rubbed too thin. She's staying with him, she said. I know. He can't handle her, she said almost to herself. He doesn't know her schedule. He doesn't know anything. That makes 2 of us, I replied. She flinched. Please, she whispered. Don't do this. But I already had. A week passed. The house felt lighter, not happier, not better, just quieter. No slammed doors, no demands, no text pings asking for Uber money or Starbucks reloads. Just Lindsay and I moving around each other like museum pieces. Fragile, priceless, useless. She cooked less. I slept more. We spoke when necessary. But it wasn't marriage anymore. It was hostage negotiation. Then, on Friday, a thick white envelope landed in our mailbox. University seal. Registrar's office. Final notice. Lindsay didn't even open it. She just brought it inside, placed it in front of me, and said, "I can't do this anymore." I looked at her. She was still beautiful. Still the woman I met in a bookstore 10 years ago. Still the woman who asked me to dance in the rain once because we missed our movie. But now her eyes were bloodshot, her posture stiff, her voice was hollow. "She's your daughter," I said. "She was ours," she said, "until you made her choose." I nodded. And she did. Lindsay went upstairs. I stayed at the table. I didn't open the envelope. I didn't need to. I already knew what it said. The next day, the college portal sent a final alert. Student Molly Vincent will be dropped from enrollment effective Monday at 8 a.m. for non-payment. I forwarded it to her, to Ryan, to Lindsay. No comment, no threat, just the facts. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Not a call, a Venmo request. From Ryan, $25,000. 00, Molly's tuition. Please. I stared at it, almost laughed. I declined the request, blocked the account, and that was when I knew, without question, that the control had passed to me. Not because I had taken it, because they had given it up. For years I was the background, the silent donor, the unseen scaffolding. But now the scaffolding was gone, and the building was shaking. They could hate me, but they couldn't ignore me anymore. It was Monday morning when the real silence set in. Not just quiet, not just the absence of her footsteps thudding down the stairs, not just the missing slams of cupboard doors or the texts asking for gas money. No, this silence had weight. This silence had form. Molly had been officially dropped from enrollment. No more classes. No dorm room. No schedule. Just void. One unchecked tuition box had unraveled the entire future she thought was promised. And she still didn't call me. Not at first. Instead, Lindsay tried one last time. She sat across from me at the dining table, elbows on the wood, hair pulled back, eyes raw. A woman exhausted, but still not honest. "She's not okay," she said. "I know. She's trying to figure out how to appeal." "She can't," I said. "Deadline past Friday." Lindsay looked away. "You know all this. You keep checking." "I'm not blind." "No, you're something worse," she snapped. "You're deliberate." I let that sit between us. She stood, pacing. Her voice started to crack. "You wanted to teach her a lesson? Fine. She's learned it. She's humiliated. She's scared. She's 20 steps behind every one of her classmates now. You've made your point." I set my coffee down. Quietly. "She made the point," I said. "I just enforced it." Lindsay's eyes burned. "You're her father." "No," I said calmly. "I was her stepfather." And she told me very clearly that I meant nothing. She didn't mean it. "Then why didn't you say something when she did?" Silence again. She sat back down, slower this time, and whispered, "I didn't know what to say." That's when I knew it was done. Not just the argument, not just the semester, the whole marriage. It had been dying by silence for years. I just hadn't called time of death. Until now. The call came that afternoon. Blocked number. I knew. I let it ring twice before I answered. Her voice came through ragged. The sound of pride swallowed too fast. "It's me." I didn't speak. She filled the void. "I got dropped. They said there's nothing they can do. It's over." I waited. "I called Dad," she continued. "He said he's trying, but he can't pay the whole thing. He's looking into loans, but it's too late. I don't know what to do." Still, I said nothing. Then, I shouldn't have said what I said. Her voice cracked. "I was angry. I didn't mean it. You've always been. You were always there." I closed my eyes. Let her sit in it. "Please," she whispered. "Just help me this once. Please." It was the first time she'd ever asked for anything with that word. But it wasn't enough. "Where are you staying?" I asked. "At Dad's." "Is he home?" "No." she said, voice small. He's gone most of the day. Is he paying for your food? No. Your car. It's not insured, she admitted. Health plan. I haven't had one since you took me off. And when you said I was nothing to you, I asked, was that just anger too? I didn't mean it, she said. Yes, you did, I said. And that's okay. But now you live in the world where that's true. Her breath caught. I was a child. You were 17, I said. Old enough to declare a man meaningless to his face. And now old enough to learn what that costs. I just want another chance, she said. Please. I leaned back in my chair. Then I said it. I believe you're sorry. I even believe you regret it. But regret isn't the same as respect. And I can't build a life off of regret anymore. She sobbed then. But I didn't hang up. I waited until she had nothing left. Then said, you can call me when you're ready to take responsibility, not just ask for help. Until then, this door stays closed. And I ended the call. Lindsay didn't speak to me for 3 days. She moved around the house like a guest. Quiet, apologetic, vanishing into rooms and avoiding eye contact. She cooked dinner for one, slept in the guest bed. We were done pretending. On the 4th day, she broke. I don't recognize you, she said at the top of the stairs. I looked up. That's funny, I said. I finally recognized myself. She came downstairs slowly, barefoot, holding her wedding ring in her hand. She was wrong to say it, and I was wrong to stay silent. But this is brutal. I was brutal to myself for 6 years, I said. I just stopped. Her voice cracked again. So that's it. No, I said. That's the beginning. She nodded slowly, and she left 2 days later. Not with drama, not with lawyers. Just 2 suitcases, a half-empty closet, and a long silence before the door clicked shut behind her. She went to Ryan's, I think. I didn't ask. A month passed. The house grew still. Not empty, peaceful. I went back to the gym. Slept better. Ate better. Remembered what music sounded like without background noise. I sat on the porch in the evenings and watched the sun burn down behind the oak trees. And I didn't feel guilt. Just air. But sometimes the stillness would press. The empty rooms. The unwashed mug in the sink. The echo of a life I built that had vanished overnight. Sometimes I'd wake up and instinctively check my phone for tuition alerts. Then remember, it wasn't mine anymore. She wasn't mine anymore. One Friday, 3 months after it all fell apart, I got a letter. Handwritten. From Molly. Dear Michael, I don't know how to write this without sounding like I'm asking again. So I won't. I just want you to know I'm working. I got a job at a bookstore. It's small, and I hate standing all day, but I'm saving. Dad says he can help me with community college next year. I'm not sure if he will, but I've stopped waiting for him. I miss our dinners. I miss the way you edited my essays. I miss how the house smelled when you grilled. You were always there, and I didn't see it. Not until you were gone. I don't expect anything, but if you ever feel like talking, I'm here. Love, Molly. I folded it. Set it in the drawer beneath the silverware, beside the note she left when she left. 2 truths. One before, one after. I didn't write back. Not because I was angry, because I was healing. And healing sometimes means you let the echo fade before you open the door again. So now I ask you, was I wrong? Was it cruelty to let her fall? Or was it the only way she'd ever learn to stand? Tell me, if you were in my place, would you have kept paying? Or would you have done what I did? Would you have finally stopped being the backup plan and started being a man who means what he says? Because I gave them everything. And all they gave me was a seat at the table and silence when it mattered most. So I stood up, and I walked away.